Hello, welcome to Cataclysm University, course number 29. I'm your instructor Vormithrax, and in this course we will be discussing mutations. More specifically, we're going to talk about mutagens and purifiers. So, similar to course number 28, where we discussed compact bionic modules, the mutation system in the game is a way for you to make adjustments to your character. They can be both positive and negative. There's a huge number of mutations that are possible in the game, and we'll kind of review a quick list here in just a moment. But unlike compact bionic modules, there's a very large element of luck involved in dealing with mutations. It's not like the CBMs where you know exactly what you're going to get if you manage to get it installed. Mutations are quite the wild card play, and they can be a lot of fun, but can also be pretty frustrating and dangerous depending on which mutations you get. But I want to make sure in this course that you know what they are, how to get them, what the interface looks like, some things to be careful of and to watch out for. And I'm not going to cover the specific mechanics involved, all the math behind how they work, how they're assigned, things like that. It's going to be more of a general overview. I'll let you kind of play around and experiment with the specifics. If you do need more details, I will link the wiki down below that links to the mutation page and the list of mutations. So feel free to look there if you want to be spoiled on some of the further details. Alright, so mutations in general, like I mentioned, are a big wildcard factor. Let's do a couple of quick looks through some screens so you can get an idea of just how big the mutation possibilities are in the game. So we're going to wish for an item, and we're just going to look for mutagen. So I'm going to show this first. This shows a base mutagen right here, and you can see it mentions a rare substance of uncertain origins causes you to mutate. Basically, if you drink a mutagen, you will be randomly mutated from a very large list of possible mutations. Now, from that list of possible mutations, there are a specific grouping called categories that have within them specific mutations applied. So you can see the list here shows many of the categories. We've got troglodyte, rat, raptor, elf-a, cephalopod, beast, plant, feline, cattle, insect, chimera, spider, medical, lizard, lupine, alpha, slime, bird, fish, and ursine. So they're roughly grouped into animal types, and within each type you will find mutations that are appropriate for that kind of an animal. So a cattle mutagen is going to basically make you very tough, maybe a bit slower, has those kinds of mutations, where a feline mutation is going to make you very quick, maybe give you a tail and whiskers and dodge abilities, things like that. So within each category you will have specific mutations that are possible to get. So that's kind of the list of categories in mutagens. The next thing I want to show is the mutate group right here from the debug menu. This will give you an idea of just how many different type of mutations are in the game. So I'm just going to start scrolling the list down and down and down and down, and it's going to go for a while. Now, not all of these are directly available through the mutagens process. Some of these are traits that you can pick from the beginning of the game that aren't available for mutations, so don't take this list as only things you can get by taking mutagens. Some of these are just mutated traits that you can pick at the very beginning of the game. But it's a very, very, very large list. Again, see the wiki if you'd like to get spoiled and get more details on all the things that are possible. So, let's talk a bit about where you can get mutagens. The most common places are going to be labs. If you go diving into laboratories underground, then that's probably the best place to get mutations, or mutagens specifically, and also the purifiers. And we'll discuss purifiers in a bit. In addition to labs, you can also find them on scientist body sites. So as you're traveling around the overworld map, you'll occasionally stumble across a site where some people have died, and those sites are divided into a number of different types. You might find campers, you might find people that were involved with sports, you might find a drug deal site, But there is one that usually has scientist bodies. And when you go look at those bodies and check the loot, you may occasionally find mutagens and purifiers and serums. So those are the two main ones. Another one that I've discovered that in my recent playthrough has shown some luck is airdrop crates. Again, as you're traveling around the game world, you may find crates laying around, usually in groups of 2 to 4, and opening those crates, I've had pretty good luck in finding purifiers, more so than mutagens, but that's another possible source. And they will show up on rare occasions in other locations like bank vaults and things like that. So, those are the primary places you can find those kinds of items. You can also cook them. So, if you have high cooking skills and you have the right recipe books, and for recipe books, you're generally going to go into laboratories once again. That's where you'll most often find the books that will give you the recipes necessary. You can then craft mutagens, purifiers, and serums, depending on which books you have available to you. So laboratories are pretty much the most direct source for things mutation related, and would be the recommended resource to go to if you're going to pursue this kind of a path. Alright, so how to make them is basically get the recipe, and I'll let you go through the recipe list and see what kind of items you're going to need. Bleach and ammonia are the two I'm going to mention that you're going to want to try to save. If you're creating a character and you know you're going to be pursuing the mutation gameplay aspect, then you'll want to start hoarding bleach and ammonia where you can find it. Laundromats are a good source of bleach. For ammonia, once again, likely the best place is going to be laboratories. But anytime you come across a gallon jug of bleach or ammonia, go ahead and grab it up, store it wherever you've got all your stockpiles, and keep a hold of it until you've got opportunity to use them later to actually craft up mutagens and purifiers and such. You're going to need a lot of it if you're going to spend any time actually pursuing mutations. So stockpile as large an amount as you can come across. Alright, let's talk a bit about the interface for mutations. So currently this character doesn't have any mutations. I'm going to drink a few mutagens and maybe even a mutagenic serum, and then we'll take a look at the interface. So I've got a few items on this character to start with, and we're going to look at this section here under mutagens. I have mutagen, mutagenic serum, which we haven't discussed yet. Serums are purified, more concentrated, and therefore more powerful versions of the base. So a mutagen, when you drink it, is going to provide a specific number possible of mutations. And a serum is going to provide a larger number of mutations. So a mutagenic serum is going to give you between 1 and 3 mutations, and it's weighted to provide 2 to 3 as the more likely outcome. So usually a mutagen will just give you 1 mutation, whereas a mutagen serum will give you 2 to 3 most often. If you get a bad roll on the random die, then you might get a single one from a serum, but it's weighted to give you 2 to 3. Purifiers we haven't discussed yet, and now's a good time to talk about them. Purifier is a way of getting rid of mutations. So if you have mutated in such a way that you got a really, really bad mutation that has horrible effects, then you can attempt to purify it to remove it. Now, purifiers cannot remove starting traits. So if during character creation you have picked certain mutagenic type of traits, you cannot get rid of those via purifiers. They're with you throughout the entire game. Now, Purifier Serum is similar to Purifier, just more powerful, so that you remove even more traits with a Purifier Serum. Now, these are all addictive processes, so be careful how many you're taking at one time, and also they're very, very bad for your actual health, your hidden health stat that controls your likelihood of getting sick and susceptibility to diseases and things like that. So also be careful to manage your hidden health stat. Take your vitamins, use your gamma globulin shots, eat royal jelly, things like that to improve your health, especially after a period or a session of taking a lot of mutagens or serums. And I would recommend you don't usually want to try to take more than a couple of serums at one time. So they're very, very powerful. They can cause a lot of pain and have a large effect on your health. So don't try to just pound down a whole bunch of serums all at once. Mutagens, not so much a problem. You can take 5 or even more at a time, but be really careful with serums. So that's kind of the general health things to be aware of for the serums and the mutagens. So let's actually take a few and see what happens. Now, a couple other things I want to note before I start drinking these. In regards to purifiers, it is random. You're going to lose good ones as well as bad mutations. So it's a bit of a crapshoot when you're doing purifying to try to get rid of some really bad mutation. You may find yourself stripping yourself of all your good ones over and over again, and there's not a lot you can do about it. There's no way of modifying that process. It's pretty much totally random, so you just have to kind of roll with the punches and keep on mutating. In addition to that, there are a couple of starting traits to be aware of if you know for certain you're going to be pursuing the mutation line. A starting trait I would recommend you try to fit into your character if possible, if you know you're going down this path, is called robust genetics. And what robust genetics does is it flips the die roll a bit in regards to the chances of getting certain types of mutations. And what I mean by that is, we're about to drink a standard mutagen. We are currently not mutated in any way, and when we drink this mutagen, it's going to make a few die rolls and check our current statuses in order to decide which kind of mutation we're going to get. And the die roll first that I'm going to talk about is in regards to the type of mutation in general that we're about to receive. So usually, without anything else interfering with this process, you have a 2/3 chance for any mutation on the general list of mutations to occur, and a 1/3 chance for a bad, quote-unquote, mutation to occur. There are a list of negative, quote-unquote, bad mutations, and basically you have a 1/3 chance to only draw from that group, as opposed to a 2/3 chance to draw from the general pool of all the possible mutations. So, if you take robust genetics, it flips that process so that instead of a 1/3 chance for a bad choice, you have a 1/3 chance for a good choice. So, if you have robust genetics, it's either 2/3 for any mutation or 1/3 for good. So it's actually a fairly powerful thing, and it costs quite a few points, you'll see in character creation, but that's what it does. So, if you know you're going to be doing a lot of mutating, I would strongly recommend you pick up that robust genetics trait. And you can never get rid of it. Once you've got it for life. It won't be purified away or anything like that. And it's going to be a very big benefit over the long term, given how many mutations you're probably going to go through. The other one to mention is one that starts as genetically unstable, which is going to cause random types of mutations to occur without you needing to do any mutagens, and then its upgrade, genetic chaos. So take a look at those. They're kind of fun to play with. You may acquire them through the mutation process as well later in the game, but you can also start with those. So it's something to be aware of. And the genetic chaos, for example, just randomly mutates you. I think it's on a specific schedule or time-based event where you're just going to mutate every 36 or 48 hours. I don't know the exact time frame, but you'll have to keep an eye on your mutation list and on the chat log, to see exactly what's happening to your body constantly. So basically, you'll mutate without needing to take mutagens or serums. So those are the traits that mostly will affect this kind of a process. So let's take a mutagen and we'll see what we get. So I'm just going to select the mutagen here. Now I summon these up via the debug menu. So normally these would be like a glass flask of mutagen or things like that. But we'll be able to imbibe these the way they are. So we're going to take a mutagen, activate it, and over here you can see you gain a mutation called Philoderm. So, we have mutated. We have now gotten the Philoderm trait. If we bring up our character sheet, this is the first part of the interface I want to show you. Right here, you can see traits, Philoderm. It's color-coded based on that good-bad mutation system. There's actually more than 2 colors. I believe there's yellow and also purple. So here's the first one, Philoderm. We can highlight it and it tells us your skin is light green and has a slightly woody quality to it. This provides a weak armor and helps you retain moisture, resulting in less thirst. Greatly decreases wet penalties. So, it doesn't say exactly what some of the effects are. Some of the traits will show you, but this one just gives you a general idea, provides a bit of armor, probably some cut resistance or bash resistance. as well as lowering your thirst. So it's a decent trait, and the next thing to talk about is when you start to acquire traits, these traits belong to those categories that I mentioned earlier. And what's going to happen is the more of a particular category you tend to have trait-wise, the more likely you are to receive more from that same category. So it kind of weights in favor of traits and categories you already belong to. Now, you will get things outside of those categories, and this is where I can't really go into the detailed math about how it's all weighted and balanced and so on. Check out the wiki if you want that kind of information. But just realize that the more you kind of flow down a particular category, like the lupine or bovine and so on, the more likely you are to receive more from that same grouping. As you get these and you go further into the mutation trees, you'll start to have dreams. When you sleep, you'll see chat notifications about the types of dreams you're having. And at a certain point, you'll start to have very vivid dreams related to that particular category. So if you are in the feline category, you might have dreams about chasing mice. That indicates that you are nearing what's called a threshold. And what happens is, if you get to that category of dreams and then take serum for that specific category, so if you're having dreams of chasing mice and rats, then you're on the feline path, and if you take a feline serum, the game makes a die roll to see if you have crossed the threshold and gone over full feline. And what happens then is you're locked out of any other thresholds from then forward. You're locked into the feline category, and you have access to a few special additional mutations that are only possible after somebody has passed that threshold. They're very powerful mutations generally. They can be good and bad. So if you want to pursue a particular category, that would be the way to do it. You want to take serums from that category to get as many traits in that grouping as possible. Keep taking serums until you get the dreams, and then each serum you take after the dreams hit that third stage have a chance of moving you past the threshold and locking you into that category, and then you'll have access to those final mutations. Okay, so we got a single trait right there. Next up, we're going to take another mutation, but this time we're going to use a serum, which is a more powerful version. We should get more mutations at one time. Notice we took a pain hit because of that mutation, and that's something to watch out for, especially if you're not in a safe place while you're trying to do this. I don't recommend ever consuming mutagens when you're not safe from the environment. So let's go ahead and take another one. We're going to take this time... Whoops, oh, now it won't let me take those. Alright. Okay, I got things reset. We'll just have to put up with a bit of interface issue with these summoned up mutagens and serums, but we can now take another one. So this time we're going to take this mutagenic serum, and this should give us additional mutations. So let's have some fun and see what happens. Okay, and taking a look at our chat log over here, we gain a mutation called Vines, and notice it's red color. That's usually indicating a bad mutation. Our Philoderm mutation turned into Bark, so it upgraded. We also gain a mutation called Thorns. Then our Bark mutation turned back down into Philoderm, and we gained Ugly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different effects from that serum. You can also see it says, you inject yourself, pain jacked way up. We also took a big hit for our hunger and thirst, so serums are pretty dangerous. Like I said, don't try to take more than 2 of these at a time, or you're really going to mess yourself up, maybe even kill yourself. You hear you scream in agony. So, whole bunch of things happened right there. We had some things increase, then decrease again. And like I said, it's trying to stay within a certain grouping. So we got Vines, that kind of stays in line with the plant category. Our Philoderm turned into Bark. We gained Thorns, also the plant category. Our Bark mutation downgraded back to Philoderm again. And then we gained Ugly, which I believe is also in that category. So everything was within that plant category, the very first one that we gained. And if we take a look at our character, we've got little prickly things now, it looks like, sticking off of us. Okay, so let's take a look at our character sheet again, and you can see we now have additional traits, some green, some red. Philoderm we knew about. Thorns. Your skin is covered in small woody thorns. Whenever an unarmed opponent strikes a part of your body that is not covered by clothing, they will receive minor damage. Your punches may also deal extra damage. Overall, pretty good. We are ugly. You're not much to look at. NPCs who care about such things will react poorly to you. And vines. You have developed several vines sprouting from your shoulder area. They're bulky and get in the way. I think that's causing additional encumbrance on our arms. I'd have to double check a few things, but I suspect that's what's happening there for that negative. And that will then upgrade to different things. So a lot of the mutations have multiple levels. They basically get more and more powerful / effective / bad as they upgrade from one level to another. And we saw that through the Philoderm turning into bark and then turning back into Philoderm again. They went upgrade, downgrade, back to its original. Okay, so next thing let's do is take a serum. Or a purifier, I mean. So let's say we absolutely hate these. We hate the plant line. We're going to take a purifier to try to get rid of some of the negative ones that we got. So let's go ahead and drink a purifier. Alright, and it says here, you lose your vines mutation, you lose your ugly mutation. So we take a look at our list. Hey, we got rid of both of the negative ones. That was pretty lucky, actually. It is random from everything I know about this. So, now we're down to just our good. And the purifier actually didn't hurt us much. Now, there is an addictive quality to these. Serums, in particular, are very addictive. So, you got to be careful here that if you start to see withdrawal or addiction information, you're going to have to deal with it. So, just be careful. Alright, so let's let a little bit of time pass. And I'm going to take a codeine. I'm also going to take a gamma globulin shot to up my hidden health stat, and we'll eat a royal jelly. Alright, and again, we'll let some time pass. There we go. So we got rid of the pain effects. Let's go ahead and do some more mutating. So, in looking at the list I've got here, we can take more mutagen, but you've seen it. Mutagenic serum is just the more powerful. That's the one that gave us a whole bunch of mutations. Purifier serum is supercharged purifier, so I would only recommend you use this if you've got a boatload of mutations that you're trying to get rid of and you don't care about the positive ones you may have gotten, because it's going to remove a lot. But it's also very, very powerful, very addictive, so be really careful with purifier serums. I'm not going to do that for the moment. I do want to bring up the list again. And you'll see that under the serum list, there are serum types for all the categories. So you can choose from any of those when you're creating the serums, or if you find some. If you're trying to push your way into a specific tree, it's best to start with whichever one you're actually trying to go down. So cleanse yourself of all the random stuff, then pick a serum of the specific branch or category you're trying to pursue, take a number of those in order to bulk yourself up with that particular group, and then switch to regular mutagens. And because you already have a large number of the ones for that category, you're more likely to continue getting them without the dangers involved in the serums. And also, the serums are way hard to make. So you'll see when you start trying to craft these, they take a lot of resources to build them yourself. Okay, so let me check a few things on my notes here. We've covered where to get them. How to make them is just basically through the interface menu. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and do change all skills, modify, set to 10. And then we'll bring up the crafting menu. And don't see a single thing. Got to have a book in order to craft them. But like I said, it just takes ammonia and bleach and a few other ingredients that aren't very hard to get. So you'll find out as you play. Alright, I haven't shown you the actual mutation interface. So now that we've got some mutations, let's do that. And it's done with the brackets key just to the right of the P key on your keyboard. It's the same information basically as the CBMs list. So when you bring up the CBMs list, that's the Bionics page with the P key, and you've got an active and passive tab. Well, the brackets key brings up a similar one, but it says mutations. And this time you have passive and active on the same screen. There are actually not a lot of mutations that require activation, but be careful to check this screen after you've received some mutations to see if it's one that you do need to activate manually. But by far and large, most of them are going to be passive. Again, you can use the exclamation key at the top and then pick a letter, and it will give you details about that particular item, but it's usually easier just to use your character sheet to do that. But you can see specifics about any of them just by pressing the letter. That's pretty much all there is to the Mutations interface. Generally speaking, though, I just check my character sheet because I can see everything at a glance, and the traits will all be listed right here. Okay, I think that just about covers it. So we've covered pretty much all the topics that I think you need to know for a basic understanding of mutations and mutagens. Just realize they come mostly from labs. You'll find them occasionally elsewhere. It's a very, very fun part of the gameplay, but also can be very dangerous. The random nature of it can be somewhat infuriating as you get loaded up with bad, negative mutations, and then when you try to purify them, you manage to get rid of just your good ones, and you're still sitting there with all your bad ones, so just be aware. It can be pretty frustrating, but if you stick with it and are persistent and are willing to put in the effort to purge and then try to mutate again, eventually you can get yourself a really cool pile of mutations that are a lot of fun to play with. And even some of the bad ones, quote-unquote, aren't all that bad. They're labeled as such, but you can deal with them, so you'll just kind of have to find out for yourself. So I hope you found the information helpful. As always, please let me know down below in the comments, or visit me on my Discord channel if you'd like more information or just want to chat about Cataclysm. Be happy to chat with you, and I hope to see you in the next course.